Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. And to those of you who may be watching the recording of this meeting later on, welcome to you too. If you'd like to turn on captioning for this meeting in English, Spanish, or another language, there's a function for doing so via Teams. I'll put some instructions in the chat box about how to turn that on shortly. Thank you so much for attending this Lunch and Learn. The purpose is to share information about a proposed zoning ordinance amendment that would introduce greater flexibility for making interior structural alterations and limited exterior additions to non-conforming townhouses and multifamily properties in RA districts and the R27 district here in Arlington. Before we jump into the presentation, I'll just introduce the three planners who have spearheaded the drafting of this amendment and the study that went into developing it. They are Emily Garrett, who will be giving our presentation today, Kelly Brown, and Matt Ladd. Well, like I said, we'll start with a presentation on the proposed amendment and then move into an opportunity for any questions. And please note that we are recording this meeting and we'll make the video available on the event page for this meeting and also the zoning studies webpage. So I'll pass things off now to Emily.
Great, thanks, Elise. Just give a moment for the presentation to load. Is everyone seeing the presentation? Okay, I see a head on. Great, thanks. So as Elise mentioned, this is a zoning study to permit interior structural and limited exterior alterations in non-conforming multifamily and townhouse dwellings. Staff is recommending a zoning ordinance amendment to enable interior structural alterations and limited additions for creation of window wells for basement egress, exterior stairs, ramps, and decks in non-conforming townhouses and multifamily buildings in RA and R27 districts. Over the past 2 years, there's been an increase in number of variance requests. There were 24 applications for variances in Arlington from 2023 through May 2024. 16 of these were for interior structural alterations, 7 were for construction of basement egress windows, and 1 was for replacing a window with French doors and adding steps. The only application that would still require a variance is the application for replacing the window and adding steps, since the proposed amendment does not allow exterior structural alterations that would perpetuate the non-conforming nature of the dwelling. So to alleviate the burden of pursuing the BZA approval for certain home improvement projects in Arlington and other communities, and giving homeowners flexibility to invest in their properties, build wealth, and better accommodate household needs, it's appropriate to consider amendments to the zoning ordinance when various requests are not unique and are heard frequently. So here are 2 examples of the exterior structural alterations that would be permitted by right. Shown on the left is an example of basement egress windows. These are required to convert a basement space into bedroom space and provide a safe means of escape or entry in case of a house fire or other emergencies. Another example is ramps, shown on the right, which would allow for those with disabilities to safely enter and exit the unit. Some interior structural renovations frequently heard in Fairlington include removing walls separating the kitchen from the dining room and finishing attics. The zoning ordinance requires that non-conforming buildings and structures be brought into conformance with zoning standards before structural interior alterations, building additions, and expansion may be permitted. A building can be non-conforming if it does not meet setback, building separation, density, building height, or parking requirements. The intent of this requirement is to encourage eventual replacement with new buildings and structures that meet current standards. This conflicts with goals for preservation of older buildings that may have cultural or historic value or provide lower cost living options. The zoning ordinance provides flexibility for structural interior alterations, additions, and expansions for non-conforming one-family and two-family dwellings and expanded housing options or EHO uses, but this flexibility is not extended to non-conforming townhouse or multifamily properties. The only paths to pursue structural interior alterations or expansions for non-conforming townhouse or multifamily properties are through a county board use permit in conjunction with provision of a low and moderate income housing plan, a neighborhood's form-based code use permit, which also requires inclusion of affordable housing, or a variance from the BZA. This table shows multifamily and townhouse units developed by right in the RA and R27 zoning districts. These districts at some point have permitted townhouses and multifamily buildings by right since they were originally established and now contain a number of non-conforming units as the districts have been amended over time and became more restrictive. There are 1,622 townhouses and 29,043 multifamily units in these zoning districts that were not developed through a special exception. Multifamily units include condos, committed affordable units or CAFs, market rate affordable units that are affordable up to 80% area median income or marks, and non-marks, which are considered affordable for those over 80% AMI. Most of these units are marks and condos. This map shows multifamily and townhouse units developed by right in the planning districts, which are areas covered by adopted sector or area plans. The dots represent the number of units by census block. Maps broken out by unit type are provided in the memo for more detail. These units are distributed throughout the county along Columbia Pike and Langston Boulevard, with clusters located in areas including Fairlington, Arlington Village, Glebewood, Halls Hill, Highview Park, Buckingham, Pentagon City, and other apartment and townhouse communities throughout the county. This map also shows census tracts with a greater percent of persons of color, housing cost burden, or both than the county average for equity considerations, which I will talk more about later. So over half of these units are located in planning districts. Staff determined whether allowing greater flexibility for by right change is consistent with or supportive of county policies for the existing housing stock, or if certain sector or area plans have their own expectations and regulatory tools to support renovations where these units are located. We found that these units located in planning districts are subject to a range of different planning policies and zoning regulations. Districts including the Green Valley Special Revitalization District, the East Falls Church Neighborhood Center District, and the Clarendon Revitalization District have a limited number of units in RA and R27 districts, and also have limited planning guidance and no special zoning tools for preservation of existing multifamily and townhouse units. The Radnor Heights East Planning District and Columbia Pike Special Revitalization Revitalization District include a moderate number of multifamily and townhouse units in RA districts. In these districts, plan goals and policies are primarily focused on the height, form, and design of new construction. These plans do not include guidance for renovation or alteration of existing units. The Fort Myer Heights North Planning District includes areas of existing multifamily buildings where redevelopment is promoted, as well as conservation areas where redevelopment is not supported. However, there are no specific policies or tools to facilitate renovation or alteration of existing units in the conservation areas. The Housing Conservation District areas were established to preserve affordability in multifamily residential neighborhoods outside of areas with adopted plan goals that have retained a supply of market rate affordable rental units. One of the goals of the HCD is to encourage the retention and renovation of existing rental affordable housing units. While townhouses are no longer allowed by right in HCD areas, other policies and tools to encourage retention and renovation have not yet been developed. The Langston Boulevard Planning District, Pentagon City Coordinated Redevelopment District, and the Columbia Pike Neighborhood Special Revitalization District have a significant number of multifamily marks and townhouse units, as well as detailed policies and implementation strategies to realize affordability and other plan goals, including an increased number of housing units overall. This flexibility for structural renovations would support homeowner reinvestment and multifamily rental property reinvestment, as in other areas, until such a time that redevelopment can occur and plan goals, including for committed affordable units, may be realized. So, through our analysis, a number of important racial equity considerations emerged. As was shown in the planning district map earlier, 51% of these dwellings are located in census tracts with a greater percent of persons of color than the county average of 41%. 17% are located in census tracts with a greater percent of households that are considered housing cost burden, meaning that more than 30% of their monthly income on average is spent on housing costs than the county average of 37%. Additionally, these dwellings make up 26% of CAFs and 55% of marks countywide. With these considerations in mind, we asked who benefits and who is burdened to understand potential impacts of the proposed recommendations through a racial equity lens. Homeowners can benefit from increased flexibility to invest in their properties, build wealth, and accommodate household needs. Renters, especially those with fewer financial resources, could be burdened by risk of increased rental rates and displacement, but they could also benefit from improved living conditions. Ultimately, these risks already exist under the status quo, and any renovation project, whether including structural alterations or not, may lead to increased rental rates and displacement. The ongoing Multifamily Reinvestment Study, or MRS, is examining the county's multifamily housing stock, including the existing options for and barriers to reinvestment in older multifamily properties. This item was brought forward in advance of MRS recommendations due to the significant volume of BZA variance requests to provide near-term relief. So zoning text amendments are being proposed in two different sections of the zoning ordinance. The first is in section 16.2.3.b regarding interior repairs and alterations of nonconforming buildings and structures. The text bolded and underlined adds to this article that existing nonconforming townhouses and multifamily dwellings in the R27 and R8 districts shall be permitted to make interior repairs and alterations, whether structural or non-structural, provided the repair or alteration is wholly contained within the existing exterior walls of the dwelling, building, or structure. This creates alignment with one and two family dwellings and accessory buildings and structures. The other proposed zoning text amendment is the addition of section 16.2.4.E.3 regarding exceptions. 16.2.4.A indicates that a non-conforming building or structure shall not be added to or expanded in any manner unless such building or structure, including such additions and expansions, is made to conform to all the regulations of the district in which it is located. With this zoning text amendment, these provisions do not apply to existing non-conforming townhouse or multifamily dwellings located in the R27 and RE districts, only for the purposes of adding or expanding window wells, areaways, decks, ramps, and steps, provided such addition or expansion conforms to all the regulations of the district in which it is located. So in conclusion, a zoning ordinance amendment is appropriate to enable interior structural alterations and limited additions for creation of window wells for basement egress, areaways, exterior stairs, ramps, and decks in non-conforming townhouses and multifamily buildings in RA districts and the R27 district. Exterior structural alterations, which include replacing doors and windows that perpetuate a nonconformity, would still require a BZA variance. This zoning ordinance amendment would allow for consistency with one and two family dwellings and EHOs and would provide flexibility for improvements that would benefit existing and new residents. And here is our anticipated schedule. On Tuesday, we briefed the Zoning Commission on these amendments. And following this information session, an online feedback form will be available through August. In September, we are planning to brief the Housing Commission and Tenant Landlord Commission, as well as receive RTA authorization from the County Board. And October will include Planning Commission and County Board final considerations and recommendations. So that's the end of the presentation. If there's any questions or comments, we could take those now. See anything in the chat? So I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, it looks like Diana can't turn on her microphone. Um, so in the chat, Diana asked, is October when the Planning Commission and Board will implement the amendments if approved? That is correct. Okay, any other questions? Great, thank you, Diana. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Elise, I don't know if you want to jump back on.
Sure. Thank you, Emily. I'll just close us out by reminding everyone that we will get the recording posted to both the zoning studies webpage and to the event page for this particular meeting. And on those same pages, we'll have links to the feedback form that we're hoping to get up and running tomorrow, and it'll be open through August. Thank you all for coming.